without further ado, give me a drum roll. Thank you.
What's the best one
We'll
ever?
practice that. Let's get into it. So to back up, talk a little bit about our approach with the farm. Our big differentiator, I don't want to say differentiator because a lot of people are starting to really take a more in-depth approach. But one of the things that I'm very proud of about our approach to every farm is not only is every farm different, every field on a farm could be different, but also every growing season is different, right? As many of the last few years for some areas they've dealt with a lot of moisture in the spring and a lot of hot and dry weather, right? So how we approach a fertility system is heavily based on where you are, what your soil types are, what your intentions are with the ground, with the grass that's coming off the ground, what you've done historically, what you're currently doing that we can work hand in hand with, right? So today we're going to look at programs that are 100%, agri-tech, right? But in that too, some of my favorite programs to work with are programs that are using things like manure or chicken litter. And then we're bringing things to the table to not only support what might be missing in that um, fertilizer source, but also support that in converting it into usable nutrients, right? By using tools like prebiotics to help increase the mineralization, the breakdown of nutrients in that organic matter to convert it into food for the plant, right? To convert that nitrogen. And here's the thing, when you get that manure analysis, that litter analysis back, that's not, immediately fertilizer. It has to go through a conversion process to become elemental pounds of nitrogen, elemental pounds of phosphorus, potassium, sulfur, etc. And there's so many tools that we have at our disposal to increase the effectiveness, the efficiency of that so that you're getting more out of everything that you're doing. And those same tools are the same tools that we use to do that with the soil, right? To treat the soil as a source of nutrition rather than a growing medium. And that I feel like is really the core of our approach. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. And
You're gonna have to freaking jump in, buddy.
oh, I know.
Otherwise, I'm used
just
to
sitting
being
here
in.
listening.
I'm used to being in here alone and talking for an hour or two by myself. So you got to jump in. But go ahead.
No, yeah. With one of my favorites is actually chicken litter or turkey litter. The key there is supporting factors, like you said,
Right.
biologicals, also adding in extra sulfur, some extra potassium. But with those chicken litter, turkey litter, you're getting a lot of phosphorus and being able to add or take soil samples and make sure that you're keeping
Right.
up with potassium levels and not putting
Oh,
down.
we're going to talk about potassium today. We're going to talk about potassium today. Keep going.
Well, you use a lot more potassium than you do phosphorus with any form of hay, whether it is a legume
Mm-hmm.
or a non-legume plant.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you put down heavy loads of phosphorus and then don't keep up with it with potassium, like in your
Right.
chicken litter or turkey litter,
Right.
you start depleting those levels and using up your reserves from the soil.
Right.
And so it's good to supplement that in. Even if you are doing those, I do recommend putting on some potassium, keeping up with that, or double checking that your soil is not depleting itself at the same time, which is a good thing to focus on there.
Right. And when you talk about depletion, you're talking about the usable pool.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something that I do want to touch on as we get into the soil side of it is how much phosphorus and potassium is in your ground.
Mm-hmm.
Is it what's on your soil sample?
Nope.
What?
Nope.
Then what's my soil sample measuring?
Usable nutrients.
Usable nutrients.
Yeah.
Or what does it say on the Midwest labs test? Exchangeable.
Yeah.
Right?
Exchangeable.
Exchangeable.
Yeah.
AKA you can have all the money in the world, but like Kevin Hart says, well, you see the way that my check in and my you got to be able to use it, right? And how do we make more of what we have when we bought that piece of property or rented it from the government, paid our taxes every year so that we can keep it? What we already have in that soil usable to our plant. And therefore to our livestock, and therefore to Johnny over here who loves steak and loves to smoke stuff and is great at it. And
Well,
so,
and the way I always tell my customers and the way I think of it myself
mhm,
is it's like figuring out that your granddaddy set aside a bunch of money that you didn't know was there. And you're like, oh, wow, I thought, I
yeah,
only had this amount in my bank account. And all of a sudden I got all this extra that's just sitting in my ground. And I just gotta work for it and get it to come to fruition. And
yeah.
so, yeah, there's God put plenty there. You might as well just take
So
advantage of it.
don't get ahead of pace, bro. Don't get ahead of pace. You get
Okay,
me
I
all
want
excited. I'm over
that's
here
what I'm
about
here for,
starting
dude.
nerding out on dirt. Let's talk about the system first.
Yeah, let's get
But
into the
yeah,
system.
that's why, man. It's fun having you
Sneak
in
peek
here.
into later.
That's it.
Yeah.
All right. So with my head's all spinning now. Let's talk about reserve pools. We're going to. So going back to working with each farm, it's exactly what Johnny's saying. It's going, hey, what are you using? Um, what have you been doing? What's the story here? What is, the story is told by soil samples. It's told by tissue samples, hay analysis. It's told by you saying, hey, this is what I've been doing for the last 2 years, 20 years, 40 years, whatever it might be. This is what's worked. This is what hasn't, right? All of that's part of the story. All of that data is what helps us be effective at going, okay, this is the story, and this is the future that we want. How do we be an effective partner with you to give you information and tools to make really good decisions with your inputs, your timing of inputs, and your quantity of inputs? And those aren't always going to be agritech, right? And I'm not even just talking about the litter stuff. Sometimes you work with certain growers that have either different alternatives or have limited capacity for spray equipment or different things and or hey, I really like using this, or we have different years where hey, this dry combined in with these liquids is going to be the best approach right now. And so that's an ever shifting landscape. Man, there's so many puns being thrown around today. It's an ever shifting landscape that that's our focus is to come up. Really, the way I always put it for people is this: I want to tell you what I would do.
Oh yeah.
And with all the access I have to fertilizer, all the access I have to knowledge and experience, and thousands of farms that I've talked to and worked with and heard their stories and seen their success and seen the failures, this is what I would do, right? And really, if you want it broken down, I'm an indecisive person. Here's the 3 or 4 things I would do. Pick one of
Or the
those.
10.
Right. Pick one of those. But that way we're really putting something together that's actually useful to you. And so really when it comes down to our system, our approach, our process, whatever it might label you want to put on it, it's we want to work with the farmers that are getting things from agritech, that are interested in agritech, and make that agritech story and share wins and share success across the board, and then share knowledge, right? Because one thing that I've said before, and you probably maybe have heard it from me, is I had a farmer tell me one time, he goes, if you take over the family farm in your early 30s and you farm into your 60s, you get about 30 chances to try something new on the farm. I said, that's the difference between you and me. Is I talk to hundreds of farmers a year, and agritech deals with thousands of farmers a year. And so I get to see all the times that things work really well and what's working, how it's working, what's working best, when it's working best. And that is the intention here, is to take all of that information to create an approach, to create products, to create solutions to problems that are the most effective. Visual aid on what some of these custom workups look like. These are a couple I did yesterday, I think. What I want to do with the ground, right? This is 2 different pieces of soil in 2 different areas. going, okay, this is what the, you know, ground looks like. These are, kind of our defining factors, so to speak, of what we're working with, right? Some visualization of the difference between these two, fields in particular, and then in depth on each field. This is largely data as far as, hey, what's helping, what's hurting. I always have said this, that everything in the ground, and honestly everything in nature, is a massive teeter totter with dozens of seats, and when you change one thing, everything else shifts, right? And so you can look at the best looking soil test, which I think I actually found yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, it was a guy in Idaho.
Mhm.
That was nuts. I was like, "How much you want for that piece of grass?" No, I'm just kidding. But
I had one a while
it
back
was,
that was like that.
yeah, it was tons of phosphorus availability, tons of potassium. But the funny thing about it was, the more I looked at it, the more I realized, man, there's little things here that are actually hurting other stuff.
Yeah.
And the worst part about it is this: sometimes the stuff we're supposed to do negatively impacts other things that we need, right? So one of those being the zinc availability in the soil decreases when pH goes up, but increased pH is more beneficial than anything. Neutral to, close to neutral pH is the most beneficial thing you can do foundationally, right? So you gotta go, okay, well, I'm gonna do this, but then I know I need to feed zinc as well, because my plants need that, right? They need that for root development, they need for tissue development. If I really want a good stand, strong root system, that's one of the key factors here. Saying, okay, what is the approach with what you have, with what we have and the tools we have, that would be suggested separately on each of these two different fields for this farmer, right? And then building options in, as far as, okay, this is kind of a base option. This is like, we're pushing fertility, we're pushing um, production and quality, and then just like you're all in, you know, kitchen sink. And so I just want to show you this, because if you're like, man, I've been wanting to, I've seen agritech stuff. I followed them. I'm curious in what they're doing or their products. This is the starting point, most of the time. Now, if you're like, "Yeah, I don't want any of that. I just want to know more or less what to do." I get that. But if you're really wanting to get in and do, take an approach to soil that's education first, right? That's knowledge based, right? That's where we love to get involved, is going, okay. And if you don't have soil tests, no worries. That's why we partner with people like Midwest Labs or Soil Test Pro, or these different companies. Go, hey, we've got a solution for that. Let's get some soil samples. And part of the reason there is this, and this is my favorite analogy. You're not going to take your pickup truck into the mechanic and say, hey, something's wrong. Don't worry about diagnosing it. Throw some parts in it, send me a bill, give it back. We'll see if it fixed it. I ain't gonna do that.
No, I ain't gonna do
I was
that
stuck. I was
either.
stuck here last night
Yeah.
till like 9 o'clock because my truck wouldn't start. I did know what was
Start throwing
wrong.
parts in it.
I threw two new batteries in it, and it started just fine
Yeah.
this morning. Thankfully, Brittany saved me and took me up to Oklahoma and got a pickup there and drove home. That was a whole deal. But we treat the soil the same way, right? We want a diagnostic of, what is this ground? The amount of times I've had people reach out like, wait, hey, I need lime. I'm like,
Mhm.
you do? Yeah, yeah, I need lime. I haven't done lime. Okay, send me your soil sample. Well, I don't have one. Okay, well, I love the excitement. Let's start there, and see how much you need, because I don't want to sell you something that turns out you didn't need and it was something else. And there's surprising how often I get those back. I'm like, yeah, you don't need lime. Surprisingly, your ground's actually fine. Now it's not, this is the minority, but still, what you're seeing and why you think you need it is actually this, or that, right?
Mhm.
And then that soul test tells us what that is, right, and how to fix that. And that's why that's such an important tool that we can use to actually help you. Because the last thing we want is for you to invest money in your ground because of something that we said, or you saw a video online, or you talked to somebody here and it's not the right thing. That's the exact opposite of what our goal is. right? Our goal is every input, every um, recommendation, every product that you use has a reason and an expected outcome.
Well, and a huge benefit for me, especially on my own farm,
Hmm.
not only taking soil samples, but tissue sampling, because you can see a lot on soil samples, but then it comes to what's actually getting into the plant. Am I getting enough on absorption? Is something holding back my nitrogen? Is something holding back my potassium? What is happening here? And
Hmm.
so, from one cutting to the next, being able to pull those tissue samples right before I cut
Right.
and be able to see, okay, where are all my levels at? It gives me a better insight going into the next cutting of, oh, maybe I need to add some boron into this,
Yeah.
or maybe I need to add some zinc.
Yeah. I
Um,
noticed you're using Agritech Midwest account for those. No wonder you pull so many. No, just kidding. Just
but
kidding.
no, that being able to see those
Yeah.
and be able to have an insight and a target of where you're going in the
Absolutely, man.
future, it gives
Yeah.
you a better roadmap than, oh, I pull soil samples once a year and then I'm done.
Right.
And you
And
don't,
that's the thing too, is I always tell people this. I'm
yeah,
like, hey, soul samples, obviously, we're in here talking about needing them, right? And
yeah,
we'll try to get off this topic and keep moving. Bear with us. But it is a snapshot, right?
yeah.
Of a changing living environment. The soil is a living environment, right? And that snapshot is telling us what's it look like today,
Hmm.
right? What it looks like in April when you're getting rain and the soil's warming up and grass starting to grow. Do nothing to it, take another soil sample in August, and it's not going to be the exact same,
Yeah.
right? It's a moving thing, and that's why keep going with what you're saying. But that's why
Oh,
having that roadmap and that constant data feedback is so helpful.
well, and even like last year, my hay was looking great. Everything was going really good on my first cutting. I was incredibly happy with it, but I took a tissue sample anyways and
Right.
saw, oh shoot, I'm low in sulfur. I didn't get quite enough out. So let me know right there going into next cutting. I need to push that sulfur a little bit heavier.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I need to get a little bit more out there, especially for getting the protein content that I'm looking for.
Right.
And so that to me alone is worth its weight in gold because
Yeah.
you don't have to take a crazy amount. You can do an average of a whole field or a couple fields, but just getting that insight of, hey, what's going on?
Right.
What's getting absorbed?
Right. I totally agree. It's it is amazing what you can learn when you have the comparison too
Oh yeah.
of a soil sample and tissue sample. Like, well, the soil's got it, but the plant doesn't.
Hmm.
Why? What's the limiting factor on the uptake here? So all that to say this, the idea behind the approach, the idea behind the information a day is farm specific, it's case specific, it's year specific. That's why, you know, we like to work with everyone hand in hand, one on one. There's a lot of people that get frustrated, like, well, why can't I just buy your stuff online? Well, you can. Here coming soon. A lot of this stuff you'll be able to, submit your information, your goals, and everything, and then it becomes a little more automated. So if you're not a social person and don't want to talk to us, um, it's okay. Our
or
feelings won't be hurt,
or
but
Nate can talk your ear off.
yeah, you don't feel like hearing me yammer on for an hour on the phone. Then we're trying to bring options to the marketplace, to our customers, to our base, to make that more accessible. So when it gets busy, which we call busy season, is kind of late February through May, and it's like, man, I need an answer now, or I want to get stuff now, and I don't want to wait for Johnny to call me back because he had a baby. No, I'm just kidding. Then we're trying to create better solutions, accessibility that way. But that is part of the reason why we are so involved is because we want every farm to plan every program, every product to do not just what we told you it was going to do or what you expected it to do, but more. We've got Jason Merle from Ohio down here this week, and then Colton Klein from Oklahoma with him. And Jay's been using our tech products for quite a while now. Wish I would have looked at exactly how long, but he started out as purely just a customer and using our stuff. Loved it so much that now he's a dealer. So if you're in the eastern Ohio, southeastern Ohio, western Pennsylvania, area. He's a great contact to have. We'll share his information. So this is Jay. He's from Ohio, and then Colton from Oklahoma.
Not much room to stand.
What's that? And so, thank you very much. Um, so Jay, you tell us a little bit about what you're growing as far as your hay. You were telling me earlier the blend, and then what you're doing, what you've
We
seen.
run about 75% alfalfa,
Okay.
and then we've got 3 fescues and an orchard grass all mixed together as one. And that's that's our hay program. It's worked for us very well. We came in as a customer of getting rid of Canadian thistles. It really sparked the interest. But the one thing that we've really noticed is the protein content in the hay has really shot up. Um, Normally 16, 15% protein was a norm for dry hay. Since we've been using the product, we've shot up to 20.9 on second cutting.
Wow.
So
Nice.
it's done real well. We started using advanced cow last year. I split the farm up to see if I could see a difference, and definitely have seen a major difference in our hay
As
production.
far as like the yield coming off or quality, bit of
both,
both visually.
both.
Yeah.
But the last 2 years have been drought, so it's been kind of real tough to see big results for a second, third, because the dry weather just took it away.
Right.
First cuttings, I've gained probably another 100 bales
Oh wow.
since
Yes, sir.
using the product.
And what would that break down to per acre? As
Uh,
far as that 100 bales.
I'm averaging about 4 to 5 bales an acre.
All right.
So,
Nice.
yeah,
Heck yeah.
and that's the 4x5s.
And that's off your second cutting and first cutting?
Just first cutting.
Just first cutting.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
Awesome.
like I said, the drought has paid
You're messing up.
havoc.
Your first cutting was only like 3.5.
I know Bermuda is all of their ball game.
Yeah, we've been using the product for 4 years now,
Okay.
and I was playing catch up before, um, which is way more expensive to play catch up than it is to play maintain.
Oh yeah.
And but my soils now are testing 6.8, 6.7.
Nice.
So
Have you seen, I'm putting you on the spot here. I don't know the answer to this question. So have you seen changes in like organic matter, CEC as well in the soil? With what you've been doing?
no, I haven't really been paying that close of attention.
I'd be interested to
Yeah,
know the answer to that. You'll have to
we've
look
got
into that.
soil samples that I
Yeah.
just took last year. Colt keeps telling me I need to patent my soil sampling. But to me, it's just a little simple thing, nothing
Yeah.
major. But
Yeah.
go around sampling, and I'm a fanatic when it's just not 1, 2, 3. I'm done.
Right.
I take several samples throughout the field, and then I mix it up, and then mix it again, and that's what I send in.
Nice.
So
My soil sampling is actually kind of down to precise science at this point. Usually I'm on the phone with the farmers somewhere else in the country, and I'm talking and I'm walking and just stab it. I'm gonna walk that way. I need to be more like you and actually kind of map out a field and determine where I'm gonna pull plugs from. Because I was pulling plugs this last week, and I was talking on the phone the whole time. Just walking around. I think I got like 8 of them. Just walking around the field. The horses were following me like, "What are you doing?"
Not only are we able to keep, maintain, and grow what he's currently doing, but we find the weak spots in his field, and then we're able to kind of plan to fix or bring those weak spots up to the rest.
Yeah.
And so we've talked about wet spots. We're using aerate to open those up, get a little more root penetration.
Right.
Areas where certain grasses grow better, we're focusing on propagating those grasses instead of just kind of a catch-all application.
I love that. Yeah, I was having that same conversation today with a guy named Donnie. We were texting about it in Nebraska, and he's got a clay pocket in one of his fields, and I think it was like 18 to 20 acres, and it was, hey, let's just focus on fixing that spot with things like aerate to loosen that soil up. And I know you guys were talking about aerate earlier, and loosen that ground up to create better water infiltration, nutrient movement. and especially root development there. So once you can get the roots in, it's a lot easier to keep that ground open.
Yeah.
But that's the key: is get it open up, get the roots in, get that development.
Yeah, I mean, especially on Jay's farm up there, it's not 1,000,000 acres. So we got to optimize every acre, no matter if it's one of the poorer acres or not. If we can bring it up with some slight inputs, it only makes sense to do it so that you have uniformity.
Yeah.
And so we've been playing with it a lot, and like he said, he soil samples rigorously, and so we have good samples for each of those areas, and then we have good samples or representations of the best parts of the field too.
Right.
So compare and contrast and kind of figure it out that way.
So we got Eastern Ohio and Western Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys farm out there.
So South Central would be what I would call it.
Okay.
Hey, you call
Whatever,
it
you know, South Central.
Well, we're Bermuda.
What's the exact coordinate?
Okay.
It's like 3 point. South Central. You guys are growing Bermuda, some wheat. Now you've done a little playing out there, and you guys use our stuff on your own farm.
As a matter of fact, that came as a custom. With a liming issue, we started there. Really liked Advanced Cow. We started with Advanced Cow, so it's like it was a pretty quick sell for me.
Yeah.
And we did that, and then we started messing around with Nitromax in our Bermuda. Love that. Because we tend to get droughty, just kind of like Jay was talking about. And we've seen the residuals on Nitromax hold on our ground longer than any other nitrogen source we've ever been played with.
That's one. Today we're going to look at the Tuskegee trial. It didn't rain at all during that hay trial. And they're like, sorry, this trial's a bust. And I'm like, no, it's not, because you can see not only how much production we got with zero rain, but how well the nitrogen held in the soil, levels went up in the soil as far as P, K, calcium, etc. go. I was like, this is great because it shows how well these products work even in the dry conditions, or holding over, through less than optimal times during the growing season.
Well, and that was
such a big deal.
Coastal Bermuda, and 3,000 pounds to the acre during, even outside of a drought is what a lot of people are like. Damn, like you made 3 bales off that field, but during a drought is very, very impressive. Now, with like fescue and stuff, you're like, oh yeah, definitely pulling a lot more off of it.
But different, yeah. But I think that was done in August.
Oh, really?
Was it August or late July in Alabama?
Yeah,
that's the time to do a trial right there. You want to see something works.
And we actually pretty much replicated that on our farm by accident. We had a first cutting that was good that had been traditional fertilizer.
Right.
And then we came in on a second cutting and we ran an 8-gallon rate of Nitromax trying to catch up because our first cut was not as good.
Right.
Got droughty. So they the year ended kind of weird. And then that next spring we were extremely wet and couldn't fertilize at all. And Nitromax carried us all the way through the next spring. And we actually set record on our farm for bales per cutting on just a residual Nitromax application. Nothing else. Dang. And then balancing soil pH.
That's set a record during drought conditions.
Well, it was a drought period when we applied Nitromax.
Okay, and then
the coming spring, it was so wet we couldn't do anything else.
Holdover from it. Oh,
and so we took that first cutting off, and it was like 20% bump for us on that, and we got another 20% when we used the Advanced Cow. So it was just, it kept building, and now it's like I don't have to. There's no pushing me to try something new.
Yeah.
I mean, I have yet to run anything with our products on our farm that didn't show massive benefit.
Yeah, man. That's awesome.
One other thing I could add too, the product is allowed the alfalfa to go beyond 4 years.
Oh, okay.
We're seeing
that's something I talk about a lot with alfalfa growers, is keeping that stand, and having a really healthy stand so that you're not having to replant every 4 years. I've had a ton of success.
Yeah, we've got 7, 8, and 10 so far.
Wow. And we have conversations every year. It's like, man, it's doing too good to pull it up.
But it's not good enough.
Yeah, right there. It's like, man, normally this would be gone and we'd be replanted, but it's like, it still looks pretty good. Like, what do we do? So those are good conversations to have, though. I'd rather have that one than, we're 2 years in and it's getting sparse and we need to look to overseed or replant.
Oh, yeah. I agree with that.
Last spring, as wet as it was, I lost a lot in the wet areas.
Right.
But I didn't throw floaties out, so I guess they didn't survive.
No life raft for the alfalfa crop. That's Well, that's why we need to get some air in the system to get that ground moisture cooperating a little bit
Yeah.
better.
The other thing too, I use 3 different alfalfas. I use a branch root, a deep root, and then
Mhm.
just a new variety,
Okay.
kind of covering the different soil types in the soil.
Mhm.
So you've got one that's high traffic, and then you got one that's made for supposedly wet areas.
Okay. Nice.
Works good unless
You know,
it's
kind
too
of
wet.
balanced out, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Right on. Right on.
so,
Man. Yeah. And that's hearing this. My biggest takeaway is like that. Oh yeah, it's worked great. Here's what we're gonna do. Here's what I want to try. That's what I love about the mindset here is that there's always potential to learn or improve on a farm, on a system, on a product, you name it.
mhm.
That's super dangerous to say around Johnny because he's got a new product idea every 3 days. I'm part of the problem. I'm part of the problem too. I'm part of the problem too. It's everybody else that has to make these things happen. That's okay, we got 10 new product ideas or blends or enzymes, amino packs. Yeah, that's part of the fun. It's always learning and improving. So thank you
Yeah.
for sharing.
Yeah,
And yeah, go check those CECs and OMs. I want to know.
I'll tell you. I
Yeah,
get to look at the
yeah.
soil
'Cause
samples
that's
when I
one
get
thing
home.
that's always impressed me with the advanced cows, how much holding capacity we see start going up.
Mhm.
And you guys aren't using humic in the system yet,
Not yet,
No.
but he's been
Right.
running a little bioact. We have done
Yeah,
Right.
last
A little
year,
bioactive.
just
but
last year.
that's prebiotics, so not direct carbon.
exactly.
Right. So it's interesting to see. Here's the takeaway there. Right. Not only like organic matter buildup, which signals that we've got in microbiology that it's good turnover, the populations are high, right? So we start seeing that come up because a lot of your organic matter is, dead bacteria, dead bugs.
Yep.
And we want to see that building, right? That tells us we got really good supply there. But the CEC increase also tells us that we've got good carbon sequestering, which means the plant's got a healthy feed ratio of everything that it needs, right? Because in order for a plant to effectively sequester carbon and then use that carbon from the air as a food source for the soil and a currency, so to speak, for nutrient and nutrient exchange in the soil, you have to have the little things, right? Like manganese.
Mhm.
Manganese, micronutrient, is a necessary part of that process. You don't have that in the system, which most systems don't, right? You're missing out on nature doing its cool thing, right? And so advanced cow has manganese in it, right? So we see the effects there. Got a little bit of carbon in it, so we see that direct effect. But what I see more than anything is, especially in legumes, carbon sequestering and deposit in the soil increase significantly after things like Nitromax, 3-18 plus, or advanced cow, which all have manganese in it, be used in the system.
Okay, it's got a funny little, just a little side story before I forget about it. One of the places that we applied advanced cow to begin with never had clover. Not that we ever knew of. And when we applied our advanced cow, we ended up with 15 acres of clover, and it just kind of came up. White clover came up volunteer, and we actually thought it was a weed at first because it was like 18 inches.
Yeah.
And we do dairy cattle, so I was like, well, clover's okay. But it makes total sense that those legumes fired off when those micronutrients got right. Because in our area in Oklahoma, the
calcium got right.
True.
Yeah.
And the only thing that you'll ever see high on our soil test is iron. Everything else is going to be bottom of the barrel. And we never focused on it. And we never knew to.
Right.
But once we ran advanced cow and we saw that kind of thing, now we plan for it.
Right. And what you see, if you're dealing with high iron soils, a lot of your phosphorus will show up on your soil test. It's tied up with that iron. Your plant's not actually taking it in. You get calcium right. It makes that phosphorus more available. You get carbon into the system, whether it's in a product like Nitromax or advanced cow, or whether it's a carbon core, which is humic acid direct. That creates more cation exchange capacity and more cation holding sites for that phosphorus to not get bound up with that iron. Iron's good, just like anything else on the teeter-totter, too much and shift stuff. And that's a huge thing we see in eastern Illinois and north central Illinois, high iron causing a lot of phosphorus type. You get these soil tests that say 100 parts per million phosphorus, and the guy's like, yeah, I'm good. But my crop starts out really slow. Yeah, it doesn't have it. It's not getting it.
Exactly.
Right? So yeah, thank you so much for sharing.
No problem.
I'd keep you in here for 2 hours, but we expect you to move at a certain pace. So
Yes, sir.
I get that. If you have questions, now's the time. start throwing some stuff in here. Johnny and I'll go back and forth arguing over who's right about the answer. And Jeremy asked a question earlier, said, hoping you cover your liquid calcium products and how quickly that can realistically raise pH or base saturation of calcium versus pill lime or traditional lime, and the cost per acre, and roughly what kind of calcium pounds you could see per gallon of product. What kind of calcium, I think that's supposed to be pounds, you could see per gallon. I love that question. We're definitely going to get into that actually right after this break, right? Isn't that the foundation? Technically, the next one's supposed to be Hey Profit, but yes, we are going to get into that in extensive detail, and we'll shift the order a little bit. We'll start with the foundation next. You good with that?
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Keep things interesting.
Yeah.
Shows us that we're not just reading a script over here. You know. So yeah, we'll jump right into that. Actually, I love that. Next we have, man, my mouse quit working. Next up, Larry wants to hear the same thing. So heck yeah, it sounds like a popular one. You heard a little bit firsthand about Advanced Cal raising pH over here to a 6.8. I couldn't tell you where he started at. Once again, Jay, once you get back in the other room and hear this, let's see those soil samples. Maybe you could shout out in the chat if you got them on your phone, or Colton pull them up from your account. What that CEC, what that OM was, we'll shout it out in here, and what that change was in the soil. And then Colton, the same thing. Johnny and over here, he's I mean, obviously, we use the stuff that we talk about on our own farm, so we've seen a ton firsthand. But we'll get into some of the science about that. We have both brome and prairie, a mix of both. We've always been told, this is Steve that asked this question, been told, don't waste your money on prairie hay. You can't make it yield more. What are your thoughts? I purchased the Total Nitromax, but don't want to waste if you have experience.
Do you know much about brome?
I do, but this is your turn. Get after it,
okay.
buddy. Let's go.
I love brome
You're
ground.
ready to go.
So one of my long time customers first started working with me back in about 2017. Does brome grass, and I mean, he first cutting, he's producing 7 bales to the acre, 4x5s.
There you go.
Off of 6 gallons of Nitromax with brome grass. So it responds
4x5 round.
Yes. And then
do you know what the weight is?
1,000.
It's 1,000 per?
Yeah. And then second cutting, he's cutting it back to 4 gallons to the acre.
Off of brome, he's making 3 times.
Yes.
I wouldn't listen to anything this guy says.
Literally, I was with him like 2 weeks ago. He tells me that, like every 2 weeks what he's producing. And then on his second cutting, he does 4 gallons to the acre Nitromax and produces 5 bales to the acre on his second cutting.
And he did how much on the first cutting?
7 4x5s.
No. Gallons of Nitromax.
Oh, 6.
0.030. Anything else in there? It's
No,
just
Nitromax.
Just that's it.
That's all he does.
And he's doing 6,
7,
7,
yeah,
and 4.
Yeah, 7,
11 total.
Yeah,
that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else.
He did calcium back in 2019, and with the Nitromax, his pH has stayed up, so he hasn't had to do it.
6, almost 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Why is the pH stayed up?
Because of the calcium in the Nitromax. It's maintaining the pH, and so because he's using it every year at such a high rate.
I knew the answer to that.
Yeah.
Obviously.
But because he's using it at such a high rate, it's kept his pH up for like 6-7 years. And he's
that doesn't why do that? Doesn't take away the opportunity to keep selling them Advanced Cal. That's not the goal, is it? It's
not at all.
Right. It's to make products that we would use.
Yeah. And
how did Nitromax come about?
Oh, what do you mean?
Like what that formulation? Why does it exist?
You tell me, because you probably know the answer than I do.
Well, because myself included, a bunch of us here and customers as well went, hey, I'm tired of mixing a bunch of different stuff together to get a really cool blend. Let's just make one that is, a fantastic solution to many problems, including maintaining pH year over year, so I don't have to spend 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks an acre every few years to get the pH back right, and then watch it slowly come down and production, fall because of it. Because just like Jay said, right, the hardest thing to do, excuse me, never fails. I don't burp for 3 days, and then I get on one of these and I burp 50 times. The hardest thing to do is to go from a soil that needs a lot of help to a good point. right? So once we get it to that good point, let's keep it there.
Yeah, why
Right?
not?
Let's keep it there. So every year's a good year. So every year you've got a ridiculous amount of brome or prairie hay. So to answer your question directly, Steve, I am not a grass type um,
Stickler.
discriminator.
Yeah.
I don't discriminate on different grass types. I will tell you that the output of a field, whether it's coastal, whether it's Tifton, whether it's Timothy, whether it's Orchard, whether it's Bahia, whether it's how many should I name on?
Oh, fescue.
Yeah, we could go on for a while.
Did
No
you say
matter,
orchard grass?
yeah, or prairie grass or brome, what you get out is what you put in, right?
Mhm.
And I don't just mean that as far as quantity, right? But the educated decision of okay, this is what I'm putting in and how much. The outcome isn't an opinion in this case of well, I think it'll be good. No, no, no. It's a real world story for a reason because the rates, the recommendations we make aren't an opinion.
Mm.
It's not. I think you should. Johnny thinks you should. It's this is what we know. This is what we've seen. This is what the science says. This is what the soil responds to. This is why we do it. This is why we love questions about pro count, advanced count. How the heck does that work? Um, or Nitromax on well, how come I can use 11 gallons of this a year and be so much more effective? And the answer to that, honestly, if you want that answer, I can do that today. And there is a solid answer. There's no sales piece, BS, snake oil pitch about it. It's purely science of how nutrients are supplied, how plants get what they need, and how effective we can be at it. And I'll just give you this quick little snippet. Um, right now, the meta analysis across, I think it's 400 plus phosphorus studies, which we're going to look at another one today that was almost 500 studies on humic, shows that only 12.5% of phosphorus from diammonium phosphate application actually makes it into the crop the first year. So when you sit here and you go, well, how can you use such a little amount of this and get the same result as a ton of that, right? There's two folds to that answer. How much are you actually getting with what you're using on different things, and then how much that's getting into the plant, right? And then also with that, how much are we relying purely on synthetic application? And before I want to let's go ahead and answer one more question, then we're going to talk about foundation. And part of the foundation conversation needs to be what is your soil made of, right? And I'm not talking about, well, this guy's got clay and that guy's got loam. I'm talking about the actual composition.
Mine's dirt. No, I'm just
Mine's
kidding.
dirt. Mine's dirt.
I got some dirt out there.
It's not though. It's not.
I know. That was a
Right?
joke.
I know it was a joke. It was a funny joke, but don't let Johnny fool you. He doesn't actually believe that statement. Soil is more than dirt. It's living organisms. It's a moving system that um, you're either farming with and feeding, or you're trying to bypass. And that's why earlier I said, hey, our system isn't about bypassing the soil to feed a crop. It's about feeding the soil to feed the crop, right? So with that last question, then we're going to jump into some of this. Have you seen anyone apply Nitromax on 5 cc soil at a rate it actually helped pH that's in the low 5.2 range? The Tuskegee study that we're going to jump into, as well as what was the other one that I'm got it. We've got tons of farmers. Caleb's probably sitting somewhere watching this, going, "All we do is 5 cc soil in the southeast." There, we do a ton of low CEC soil, and the biggest thing that a lot of people miss on low CEC soils or don't understand is, I come across time and time again guys going, "Well, put out 200 pounds of urea, 90 pounds actual in, right? On 92. Sorry if we got any math sticklers in here, math teachers. 92 pounds of actual in on my 5 CEC soil, my 3 CEC soil. And the biggest thing that communicate back is like, well, that soil, as Jeremy probably knows and why he's asking that question, can't hold that much at once, right? The analogy I always use is your CEC. I'm going to rep Ozarka here for a minute. These are your CECs, right? The CEC is representative of how much available nutrients the soil can hold, right? So if I take a lower CEC and I put this much nitrogen in it, it just can't keep it, right? You're gonna dissipate, you're gonna leach, you're gonna lose it very quickly because that soil can't hold it in availability. What I love about Nitromax and why you hear stories about how long it lasted in the soil, or how well it worked in low CEC soils, is because one of the tools that we have in there with it is carbon. Saying, hey, if the soil doesn't have enough cation receptor sites to hold what we're putting out, let's put those tools in with what we're using. And that goes the same for, I deal with a lot of farms that are using urea and just going, hey, we need to have carbon in the form of humic or fulvic or both in the system. There's a reason that carbon core is named carbon core, right? Do you know why that is?
I don't actually know. You haven't told me yet.
Because at the core of every good agricultural and fertility program is carbon.
I like it.
Right?
Yeah, good name, yeah.
I just didn't pull that one out of thin air. There's a reason for that name. And, and I truly believe that because I'll just nerd out for you a second, Jeremy. And then I promise you guys we're going to talk about calcium and the soil and ProCal and advanced cal and all that fun stuff. That's very important. But let me just share something so you could see it. We'll just skip around a little bit because Jeremy's got me all excited over here talking about nitrogen uptake efficiency. I just put this piece together. If you're like, man, Nate, I want a copy of that. Guess what? I already have an email drafted for Sierra over here to send. Hey, I want this to go out to everybody in our user base. So if you don't get emails from us, definitely sign up for that. I don't. How do we do that? On our website. Get on our website, and you can get our newsletters, aka here's a cool thing to read about this week or a helpful tool to learn. That excuse me, tool right now being conversation being carbon core. So I'm going to pull it up to show you some of these studies. But uh, what I'm about to show you is the uptake efficiency and usage efficiency of nitrogen when humic is in a system of other nutrients as well, your phosphorus, potassium, etc. And the reason that is because of exactly what we're talking about with Nitromax is, or low CEC soils, is you have to be able to hold it, right? So if I'm going to put something out there in a small cup, I'm gonna put the tools with it to increase the size of that cup at the same time. And that's why guys go, well, how long will Nitromax last? We've seen, I mean, Colton over here talking about, a few hundred days, but many times and studies where it's less than 300 days in the soil with very little rainfall, with suboptimal conditions, or even heavy rainfall, and we're still holding it over because we're decreasing the volatility of that. And that's part of the approach, not just with every program, but with every product. Is it's so hard to talk and click these at the same time. My brain's like one or
Oh, I
the
can't
other
talk
here,
and type.
one or the other. Pick one. Uh, Hopefully, I download this on my laptop because I know I've got it on my computer. But the having those tools as part of the products is what makes those products work so well. Is it this carbon
Well, that
driven?
was another
Yeah,
reason.
you talk for a second so I
Yes.
can concentrate on showing these people something cool. Keep going.
Well, and that's going a little bit more into the Nitromax side. But another, speaking on the Nitromax with the humic in there to increase the holding capacity and to allow your
Mhm.
soil to hold on to it for longer. But also the calcium, as we spoke about before, the one of the huge reasons we added that in was to maintain pH. Another benefit that we see off of it is the increase in nitrogen uptake and utilization by the plant
Right.
off of that calcium being in there, which has been a huge factor for, in my cases and a lot of our studies on increasing protein content
Right.
and nutrient value by having that in there. And so that's one of my favorite aspects of the calcium being in there.
Right. While I pull this up, bear with me, folks. It was on my other computer, but I got a way to get to it from here. Why don't you start talking about the pro cal and the advanced cal and how quickly you see a response in particular, because that was the question that was asked and seems to be a popular one. And we'll take from that and move into the foundation, answering questions about weed control, which I see Ron asking in here, and how things like base saturation and calcium and pH affect weed control and why. So I'll let you go.
Yeah. So they're always telling me subjects to talk on, and I'm like, when can I talk about calcium? This gives me
There you
good
go. Now's
excuse
your
to do
moment.
it. Yeah,
This is it.
it's my favorite subject because of how much relies on pH. Everything's built on the back of pH, and um, reason for that is pH stands for uh, potential hydrogen. So
Right.
it's reading hydrogen levels that you have in the soil. Now, a low pH isn't, oh, I just have a bunch of acidity. It's an abundance of hydrogen, right? And so, what we're doing with the ProCal and Advanced Cal is displacing that hydrogen content and at a very, very quick rate. Very compared to limestone, depending on the grade of limestone you're looking at. If it's A grade limestone, maybe 8 months to a year. B grade limestone, looking at a year, 2 years if you're lucky, for the gravel to break down. Have you ever seen B grade? It's literally gravel. But the Pro Cal and Advanced Cal, because they're in liquid form, are going in and soaking into the soil immediately to start raising the pH. I've had customers of mine pull soil samples after, I think the closest one was 2 weeks post application, and I was like, "Wow, that's pretty quick." And he goes, "Well, I just wanted to see,
7 days.
7 days. You
Yeah,
got me
step your
beat.
game up. 7 days.
7 days. I
1 point of pH change in 7 days.
really
Yep.
okay.
It was
That be mine.
it's like 5 years ago, but I'm still holding that trophy. So step your game up, bud.
All right, your story's better than mine. Mine was just a half point race.
Yeah,
So,
whole point in 7 days.
whole point in 7 days.
Do better next time.
But the quickness aspect of it is phenomenal. Usually about
Why does that matter? I mean, obviously for like timing, usage, but here's um, you answer it, Tari.
you asked me a question.
Yes,
So
I did. Well, yeah, kind of.
for myself and what I've seen a lot with my customers is, it's like uh, limestone's like buying a meal that you can't eat till next week, you know, and then with the pro cal and advanced cal, it's like getting something that you can eat right now. With it, the results that you see not only on this growing season, production wise, but return on investment of what you're
There it
doing,
is. Yeah.
and increase on
Yep.
nutrient value and production this year alone
Right.
is the aspect. I mean, you're not focusing on next year. It's hey, and you are focusing on next year because of the longevity.
You're
Off of
focusing
it.
on hay. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Hey, hey, we're focusing on hay.
Yeah.
But you're focusing. You're getting those benefits this year, and it's not okay. Well, I'm doing this so I can get benefit next year. Now
Right.
you will get benefit for next 3-4 years, depending on where your CEC is at.
Hmm.
But having those immediate benefits, um, even on my own farm, has been phenomenal. Wiping out berm sage in 30 days even impressed
Yeah.
me, and I've been doing this for 10 years. So,
Yeah.
but being able to have those kind of results is
And so let me quantify that because you said ROI, and so this is a point that I want to bring back around. Um, the average based off of meta-analysis of studies on yield loss is the way it's classified by universities, but the difference in yield between a 5.5 pH and a 6.5 pH in hay production averages 19%, right? And so you go, well, my university says I can grow my grass in a 5.5. Yes, you can, right? Just fine. Humans can also survive on one meal a day. Doesn't mean that they're going to be the happiest, right? And my point there being like, it's that difference, just that difference can make such a big impact. And so let's quantify that for a minute. Um, if you're, let's say you're making one bale of hay, right? 1,000 pounds, right? And you're looking at limestone and you're looking at, advanced cal or pro cal and going, okay, I've got two options here. Let's say both those options cost the same amount, right? And even harder still, they'll come out and do that. I've got to do this one myself, right? So, and this is actually a conversation I had yesterday. And he's like, well, it's the same price. I'm like, yeah, but here's the difference is if you see that 20% increase right now versus later, right? By the time that lime catches up, the amount that yield increase benefits the ROI, the pocketbook of you as a farmer, way outweighs it. So let's put it this way: you talk about, let's say 3 bales an acre off two cuttings, right?
Mhm.
So I was saying 1 bale, but let's use real world. So I'm making 6 bales, right? What 20% increase on 6 bales?
Yeah.
It's an extra bale, right? That extra bale, even if it's worth only 40 or $50, depending on the hay market, or $80. It's kind of the average right now, I believe, right? It's like $82.
Yeah.
Am I about right?
Well, depending if it's horse quality, you're looking at 70 to 80
Right.
or
Well, I
uh
don't grow anything but horse quality. I'm just
yeah.
kidding.
No, but cattle hay
So
usually
so even
35, 50.
okay, so even on the $40 range, right? I'm spending $40 on an acre on Pro Cal or Advanced Cal. By the time the lime catches up, it's already paid for itself and is now making me money. And there's a $40 gap that lime has to cover,
Oh
right?
yeah.
If I'm using them both in the spring or at the same time, now I've got a $40 gap that lime. So in other words, the Pro Cal and the Advanced Cal have to be $40 an acre more expensive in this scenario, even for the two to equate. And I'll give you the exact real world example of that. I worked with, and this is just one scenario, but I worked with a 30,000 acre farm in northern Missouri. That was corn and beans, right? But the lime was $8 a ton.
Hmm.
They used advanced cow. Why? Because they understood not only logistically it's easier, maintaining it year over year to maintain the yields after that is easier, but the return on investment we get will make us more than that gap, especially
Absolutely.
on a legume, which responds even heavier than a grass does to pH shifts. And so I say that because there is a point to the like, well, it works faster. Why does that matter? It matters for the dollars and the cents. And that's part of the approach here is like, if some Miller's favorite thing to say to me is if it doesn't make dollars, it don't make sense. And I do agree with that in this scenario of like, hey, if we're going to put things into a program and have products, there has to be a financial justification as well, right? If I can get the same outcome with something cheaper, then I'm going to suggest you do that, right? But if there's a financial and an agricultural justification to every decision and every recommendation we make, then we're doing our job, right? And that's our responsibility is to not just look at the science, not just look at the agriculture side of it and the soil side and the plant side, but also look at, okay, well, we are a lot of times working with another business, right?
Hmm.
A farm is a business and we're making financial investments. That time is money, right? And the amount of time that your money is tied up in something before you start seeing investment has a huge impact on the overall financial picture of a farm. And that's why
Yeah.
the speed aspect makes such a difference. Go ahead.
And it's not even just the time on it breaking down. I mean, so with with most farmers that I come across in the country that are doing hay and pasture,
Right.
if you're in flat ground and all your ground is flat ground, most of the time you're in an area where there's a lot of corn and
Hmm.
soybean. Then you're put on a wait list, you're put on the back burner because those are bigger farms. They're trying to get to them first.
Right.
And then you can be 6, 8 months out before you can even get it applied. And if you're in hilly ground where there's not a lot of corn and soybeans, trying to get a limestone buddy on there, you're gonna have a hella insurance because you're gonna end up tipping it over. And so the key there is okay, it's easier application on hillsides. If I am in hill ground, I don't have to worry about turning it over unless I'm on the side of a mountain.
Right.
and I can get onto that ground without having to worry.
Hmm.
And if you're in areas with a lot of corn and soybeans in those flat areas, you're top priority. I mean, with us, it's 3-4 days. With limestone, it could be 6-8 months on a
Right.
wait list, and you don't have to wait. You can do it on your own time frame. If you have a 9 to 5 job, like a lot of us AM pasture guys do, you can do it on the weekends. You can do it at nighttime,
Nine to
or
five. Yeah, right.
I mean, not.
I get you. I'm
I
just
call it a
playing.
9 to 5, but um, in that sense, it's on your own timing. You're not trying
Yeah.
to take a day off work to go meet a guy on his schedule.
Right.
It's I have the tote there. I can do it on the weekend. I can do it after work. I can do it
Yeah.
when I need to do it versus when he wants to do
Yeah.
it or when he can do it.
Right. And this is why I make that joke. So I saw this thing the other day, and it said, "If you're tired of your 9 to 5, become a farmer. You can work 5 to 9." And I was like, "Ain't that the truth?" They ain't never done.
That's right.
And then especially if you got animals, then they decide to give birth and everything else at 2 in the morning.
Oh,
It's never a convenient time
two
for
nights
that.
ago, I was disking at 10 o'clock at night because
Oh, that's the best time to do it.
yeah,
It's the best time to do
it's
it.
cool.
Oh,
Kids are
you
asleep.
won't catch me in the tractor with the sun up, brother.
No.
There's a reason that sucker's got lights on it.
Oh
There's
yeah.
also a reason all my neighbors are texting me regularly, like, "Is that you out there?" Yeah, it's me. This is the quietest time of day. Kids in bed, everybody's asleep,
Yeah.
nobody's calling. I'm just sitting here, put on some music, and get my job done. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about the calcium. Talk about Soul Foundation, how Advanced Cal and Pro Cal work, why they're so effective, and also how we use that mindset across the board. Right? Did you just mute my computer in there? Oh my gosh. I was sitting
Thank
here.
you. It was annoying.
So with that being said, before we jump into that, I did want to show you guys, I promised you this to show, and now I know why it wasn't in my folders yet or to here yet, is bear with me. There's a lot of text overlapping going on here that it hasn't been formatted properly. But this is 448 on-farm trials. Um, these are in Uruguay, actually, from 2014 to 2024. Also have replicated U.S. trials up here, and I want to go show both of these. I haven't the other one I have in hectares, so I'm going to keep this one. So this is going back to the carbon conversation on average across multiple crop types and hundreds of studies with human and fulvic and various carbon sources. On average, we see a 12% increase in yield, a 27% increase in nitrogen uptake efficiency. That's what NUE stands for. Um, and what? Nope, I got that backwards. I keep doing that this week. I'm not getting enough sleep or something. Nitrogen usage efficiency. There it is.
Okay.
Nitrogen
What are you
usage
talking about?
efficiency within the plant, and then a 17% increase in nitrogen uptake by the plant. In other words, if I'm already spending a bunch of money on energy for the plant, I want to get the most out of it. This is why that's part of Nitromax. This is why this is part of a lot of our programs, or all of them in some way, shape, or form. Is just the impact that has. This is US based studies here. Okay. This is South America with 448 over the course of 10 years, showing a 7.6 to 15.7% yield response there, a net return of 85 to $122 per hectare. So divide that by roughly, was it 2.5 to figure out dollars? But, very positive return on investment when most of the time we're spending $5 to $10 an acre on carbon per year. That's a heck of a return right there, right? Or 20, or that $10 to $20 per hectare if you're farming on hectares, and almost 90% chance of at least breaking even when using carbon in a system, which is one of the highest break even odds I ever seen out
Really?
of a nutrient. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
think about it, like all the studies on zinc, on boron, on nitrogen, on phosphorus, on potassium, and how often, how easily it is for those inputs to not turn into positive dollars. And you see a tool like that be so consistently a good investment, a good idea. No matter whether you're growing hay, alfalfa, wheat, corn, beans, cotton, peanuts, you name it. It's feeding the system, right? Instead of feeding the plant, it's feeding the system. It's giving the system things that make everything else we're doing more effective. Let's go back to calcium. I just, rabbit trail, promised I'd come back to. To start the conversation of the foundation of, you know, building a solid foundation, I want to talk a little bit about what hay removes from the ground, right? Why that's important is because it definitely starts to change your entire perspective on what you're feeding your grass and how you're feeding your grass, right? Or your alfalfa. I do want to get to some of these questions, so keep asking them. I promise you, we're going to get to them all. Um, and how long it takes to work on the calcium. We're going to get to that here momentarily as well. So, with this all being said, your coastal Bermuda removes, and this is one of the lower ones, but your coastal Bermuda per ton of hay removed removes 50 pounds of nitrogen, about 13 pounds of phosphorus, and 46 and a half on average pounds of potassium. I want to put that in perspective for just a second. Okay. To make math easy on me, let's 46 and a half. If it's okay, we're going to call it 50 just to make the math easy. Right. So let's say I'm making 4 bales, right? Twice at least. Right. So I'm making 8 bales. Right. So 8 times 50, I'm pulling off 400 pounds of potassium. Just a quick question. Um, how many pounds of K2O, potassium, are in 100 pounds of triple 19?
In 100 pounds?
Yeah.
19.
Right. Wasn't a hard question.
No.
Right. Try to keep it easy. And then straight potash.
100 pounds of 0060 would be
60.
Yeah.
I'm not trying, and these aren't trick questions,
No,
right?
you're good.
So if I'm using triple 19, or if I've used triple 19, triple 17, right? Now the question is, okay, just to address the removal rates that my ground would have. And this is in agri-tech science. This is in your textbook, right? And then fescue is at 55, orchard grass is at 64, timothy's at 57. So when I rounded up to 50, it was because I said it's one of the lowest. Your ryegrass is at 50, your sorghum is at 60. So even if we just call it 50 down the board to make it easy, triple 19, I'm getting 19 pounds of potassium. I need 400.
Yeah.
Right? I do that math right? You fact checking me over here? So I'm doing all this in my head.
But
So
no, you did it right.
400,
50 times.
400 divided by 19, we're going to use a calculator here, is 21, right? Per 100.
Wait, where are you dividing the night?
So 400 pounds of removed potassium
Okay.
for 8 bales.
Yeah.
Right?
It's 400 pounds of triple. I mean, what are you talking about?
And so triple 19,
Yeah.
how many pounds or how many, tons would I need per acre to address that if I'm only getting 19 out of each? Right? So I would need 21 of the 100. So 21 times 100. So you would need 1 ton, 2,105 pounds of triple 19 just to address removal of potassium.
Okay.
Do you know anybody using that much?
No.
Right. But
no, you go, bro.
right. So how is it
Phosphorus would
possible?
kill
How is it
everything.
possible though that we can grow 8 bales with triple 19 at 4, 5, 600 pounds?
Because you're pulling a lot out of the ground.
Right, pulling it out of the ground. So this is, I said, a mineralization thing, right? We want to talk about what you have in your soil, and then how we use that, right? And how we use more of that, and that's the entire idea here. But the point in this being is like, if you're thinking, well, you know, I feed my crop exactly what it needs. Most hay growers don't realize just how much potassium hay takes away, right? That's a lot. It's a lot. I don't know anybody actually feeding any hay crop. And would it be profitable to do so? Absolutely not. Do you know what the price today of triple 19 is?
Well, it depends on the area of the country, but the U.S. average is what, 765?
Damn, did you keep up with your stuff?
Oh,
Good job.
triple 19 is like my
Good job.
go-to. Yeah.
Good job. 765 a ton.
Mm-hmm.
So $765 an acre.
Oh yeah,
To
if
make
you were
8 bales.
yeah, golly, you would never.
and I'm getting way too much phosphorus now.
Yeah, you'd
Right,
have
so
to
that blend doesn't make sense
you'd have to be like
because it
telling
doesn't actually because the
growing gold.
feed ratio here is 50, 13, and 50, right? So really, I should be feeding something with a similar
How
ratio.
much phosphorus would you be putting on if you did?
If you well, it's 19
Kind of,
times 2,100 pounds,
yeah,
be
so
400 pounds of phosphorus,
Yeah,
and per
you're
ton you're
using
only removing
80
13. Yeah,
off 8 bales
you're
would
using
be
4 tons of
95.
hay, right? You're way overdoing it,
Yeah.
right? So I'm just saying, that ratio is already wrong.
Oh yeah.
That analogy is to show you like the actual feed ratio, but also how even a system you might be familiar with or have used in the past. And I've used triple 19 only to prove it wasn't a good option, but isn't the right rate, right? So you're actually buying something that's quite pricey right now, and it's pricey because the amount of phosphorus in it, and you would have to way overbuy that and way oversupply the most expensive component of that just to get the right amount of nitrogen and potassium that you need, right? So even if you are using dry, make sure your ratio makes sense, but even still, that then becomes a more costly scenario when you actually start looking at only feeding the crop instead of feeding the soil, right? So with that, let's talk about the foundation of the ground, right? Johnny said something earlier, and we kind of joked about it, of what the ground's made out of. The average soil in the United States is made out, and you can Google this. You can go fact check me right now. Is made out of anywhere from 1 to 3.5% potassium by weight. On average, it's about 2.5, right? And phosphorus is about 0.5% to 1.5% by weight, right? So how much does soil weigh
Per acre, 1.5 million pounds.
per acre? How big is an acre?
Oh yeah.
Talking about volume. So 6 inches, right? Let's just call it 6 inches.
But and then a surface acre.
Right. One surface acre of 6 inches weighs 2.2 million pounds on
Oh,
average.
2.2.
2.2 million pounds on average, right? So, and once again, Google this. I'm not making this stuff up. So if let's just say that on the low side with my potassium, I've got, at 2.2, and and we're just talking about the first 6 inches. Hopefully, we're farming a little bit more than that. But even still, if I have just 2.5% of that, that's 55,000 pounds of potassium. That's just in that first 6 inches. Okay. So when you say, well, how can triple 19 or how can Nitromax even produce that much hay if it's not putting that much on? Well, because the amount of potassium that you see on your soil test or phosphorus you see on your soil test is the available pool, which represents roughly 1 to 2% or less, depending on how healthy your ground
Your
is.
check-ins versus your savings.
Right. Check-ins versus savings, Kevin Hart, and that's, we kind of joked about it earlier, but it was important to circle back to. And it's partially because of the conversation we're about to have about calcium, which makes up 5% of your soil by weight. You got a lot of it in your ground, right? And so the idea behind Advanced Cal and Pro Cal and why they work so well, and you don't have to use hundreds of gallons of it, is because it is designed to have the soil work for you along with what we're applying. So we're applying a highly available form of calcium. That is to have an immediate reaction of calcium levels in the soil, but most importantly, it's a catalyst because what we're doing is we're chelating that calcium and we're putting on enzymes, an enzymatic chelation with that calcium that increases soil mineralization specifically of your soil cations. And that's why when you use Advanced Cal in particular, but Pro Cal as well, you see not only calcium based saturation go up, but potassium levels go up, right? Because we're actually releasing your primary alkaline earth metals from the soil. We're using what you already have. You might be asking yourself, well, Nate, is that going to use up what I got? Going back to the per ton, 1 ton of hay removes 6 pounds of calcium. It's not a lot, right?
No.
So calcium is a structural element. It's a foundational element, right? It's not something that we're removing a ton of, but it's something that everything else in the system relies on to work effectively for soil aggregation, nutrient mobility, communication. If you didn't know, plants talk. They use calcium wavelength signaling to communicate, and that signaling is sending out. They use electron emission at different resonations we're gonna get super nerdy here for a second. At different oscillations, so different wavelengths, right? A very low wavelength, right? Google the Schumann resonance after this if you want to read about something really cool. It's the song of Earth. It's all the plants and the bugs and everything else talking that we can't hear. And they use that communication to tell the soil, hey, I need this, I need that, or hey, look out, I'm getting attacked by XYZ, communicate stress, etc. That communication, the further that communication goes out, the more available nutrients are to the plant. Why? Because nutrient availability doesn't just have to do with the movement of nutrients in the soil, like you're thinking of, cars on a road, right? Cars don't move without a driver. The driver in this scenario is your biology, is your beneficial bacteria that are moving things through the soil, right? And here's the interesting and most fascinating factor: phosphorus is a immobile nutrient. It does not move through the soil on its own. The only way a plant gets phosphorus is either by growing to it in available pools, right? Root exudation, which is where plants release things like that enzyme that we use to chelate the procal and the advanced cal to release phosphorus from soil mineral. Different enzyme, but similar, right? Approach of root exudation, or redox of firing electrons directly at soil mineral to release these things, or by sending out that communication and then microbes being able to bring it to the plant. What they do is they say, hey, I'll bring you that. In exchange, you feed me carbon, right? You have the ability to pull carbon out of the air and excrete it through your root system. Why is that? Because that was God's design when he built this system to say, hey, it's a bartering system, right? The plant can get what you need, you get the plant what it needs, and the two of you exchange. You
And the
need
issue
go
that you
ahead.
run into as well when you're trying to use this bartering system, because what I always tell farmers is carbon's the currency of the exchange. Is I'll give you carbon, you give me nutrients.
Mhm.
You pull them out of the soil's profile. If the plant tries to pull too much carbon out of the atmosphere and push too much into the soil, it's negative on itself. It can actually self-destroy by pushing too much through it and
Right.
pushing too much into the ground because it uses carbon as well. We all do. And so with that currency, and my question to you, which I'm sure a lot of people are asking, and I dive a little deeper into that in layman's terms, is how do you cause and access more of that pool on mineralization? How do you?
How do you increase the mineralization rate of the soil
Yeah.
of what you're getting out, right?
Mhm. In layman's
Great,
terms.
great question. In layman's terms, you feed who was Layman?
I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
you
just
that's
you.
look that
You know
up.
that. Anytime you ask me a
Poor
question,
guy, poor guy.
oh really?
No, I'm just kidding. I actually don't know.
You have me stuffed.
I know. I was just playing with you. I don't know. I'm gonna look it up later too.
Is it layman or lame man?
Both, I guess. Okay,
Yeah.
let's get back to the point.
Okay.
So it's twofold, right? The mindset is this: if you're working for that currency to then get what you need, right? The whole feeding the system is saying, well, let me introduce more currency into the system because it's not money, right? It is a currency, but it's not money. They're not buying plasmas. You don't have microbes sitting down there playing their Xboxes. They need that for food, right? They need that for food so that they can replicate. So, because that is the purpose of life at the end of the day, hence why you got a kid. And
Yeah.
Sierra over here is pregnant. Congratulations. Is because it's not our only purpose, right? But without reproduction, you don't have life, right?
Oh yeah.
So we need that in order for life forms to sustain. We end up like white rhinos. I'm just kidding. But that being said, is if I can feed that into the system, not only is it helping in all the other ways that we've talked about. This became a carbon podcast on accident, but it is a key component. And I know we've been in here a while, and I promise you we're going to get into some of the products. But this is such a fun. I'm having a blast. I hope you're having a blast. If I can feed that into the system, then I can create more life by giving that food source. That then now I have more microbes that'll positively respond to those signals asking.
Do
And
you know
now
how
that carbon
microbes
is
reproduce?
they divide.
Yeah.
Right. It's bacteria.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
divide like cells.
And they do it fast.
Oh, real
That's the
fast.
best part.
Yeah.
Is it doesn't take long. And so, you can very quickly see a response in crop growth and crop health by feeding the system. And feeding the system isn't just carbon, right? It's the micronutrients that they need as well, that your plant needs, that your animal needs, that you need, and that being a part of your system that you're feeding. And it's also bypassing some of that even further and saying, hey, if enzymes and amino acids are what all life forms, including your cells in your body, need for energy, for protein creation, for sugar, word is gone,
That's
for
all right. For sugar.
metabolism,
Yeah.
to keep the system running, right?
Mhm.
If it's a fuel source, right, and also a tool to release things from the ground to get extra out of that savings account, that's something else we want in there, right? So it's not just the advanced cal, it's that we can build products like Nitromax to have those in there to help feed the system even further to get more from that system, right? So it's not just a pro cal and advanced cal thing. It's a hey, every tool that we use as a farmer should be multifaceted to feed the system, to feed the soil, to feed the crop,
Mhm.
right? And to do so in a way that is using not just chemistry, but our understanding of chemistry and biology and unification to do so most effectively,
Absolutely.
right? So specifically, let's talk about that 5%, right? And advanced count pro cal. So, a lot of the questions I get, I just want to just run through these like how fast does it work? Right. We kind of hit that. It works very quickly, right? You see a response, I mean, within 7 days, but depending on the soil, depending on the rainfall, depending on what's growing, the coverage, etc. Typically, safely 30 to 60 days, right? Is when I'm like, hey, take a soil sample. Application rate depends on the size of the cup and what the
Mhm.
cup's in, right? So I've been sitting here drinking away at this vitamin water, and that is now getting replaced by hydrogen, right? So it's a great representation. That's why I love the cup analogy because that's why your pH goes down, right? Is because you put something in the cup, then you rapidly took it away before mineralization or other factors could replace that, and now I've got hydrogen in the system. It's empty space, right? Empty space means can't communicate as far. It means soil compaction increases, root development decreases. So let's talk about broom sage and why is lime, not just Procal Advanced Cal, but why is lime a solution to broom sage, right? Is it just because broom sage hates the neutral pH? No. It's because what you're trying to do is build an environment that the grasses that you predominantly want growing have the most opportunity to do so. And they choke out competition. In order to do that, we have to have a strong coverage on the soil and a strong root system. What that means is not only having aggregated soils, loose soils that can develop roots, but then having phosphorus, which is a primary driver of roots in high availability, highly impacted by calcium base saturation. Having zinc is the next factor, which is now a feed system to further increase that, right? So that you get a really strong root system, so that your Bermuda, your fescue, your orchard grass, your Timothy, etc., can choke that out, can push that out of the system. And so you see that really quick response. What you're seeing isn't, oh, hey, the soil isn't only the chemistry side of, well, the soil changed really fast, and so the broom sage is gone. Well, those bare, those spots where that broom sage was, you know, occupying aren't empty, blank spaces in the soil. They're now filled with grass. What does that mean? Your production is going up, right? You're not competing for nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and everything else as heavily. But on top of that, why that is, why it's gone so quickly is because the grass and the roots and the growth was able to react very quickly to an adjustment that we made in that foundation that it's growing in to give it a better chance, to give it what it needed to grow more effectively and more aggressively. Which, this is why I always say like Bermuda is the most aggressive weed. So just set up an environment where it can grow aggressively and it'll choke out a bunch of other weeds,
Oh yeah.
right? And that goes for a lot of the grasses that we use for hay. Is they're going to be your more aggressive growers if you give them the opportunity, the environment to grow aggressively. And that is how we get rid of broom sage, right? Because you can't go out and spray a herbicide that'll kill broom sage. because if you do that, you're also going to kill the grass
Everything.
as well,
Yeah.
right? We don't have any targeted herbicides specifically for the grasses we don't want because they're biologically very similar. So what we do is we create an environment that allows them to win. And it's more often than not a pH or calcium based saturation that you're addressing in order to create that environment. Every now and then it's not. Every now and then it's not because your calcium based saturation, your pH is low that you have broom sage. It's because your potassium based saturation and your potassium availability is low, creating a difficult environment for your grass to grow. Or you've got a lot of iron in your soil, so it's not getting enough phosphorus. So we need to create uh, a situation where we're driving up calcium based saturation further, or we're increasing carbon in the soil so that we have more phosphorus availability, more root growth, more root development, choking that out, right? So that's part of the reason why you might call and go, "Hey, Johnny, I got broom sage. ProCal get rid of that, right?" He's like, "Well, most of the time." Like, what do you mean most of the time? Does it not always work? Well, it always works for what it's intended to do, but sometimes the solution to the problem isn't always the same. And that is why when we talk about, hey, get a soil sample, please get a soil sample because I don't want to tell you, well, yeah, just go run 4 gallons, 5 gallons of advanced cal, knock that broom sage out. Will that be true most of the time? Yeah. But that few percentage points where it's not, then I did you a huge disservice. And that is not the intention. The intention is to actually bring solutions to the problem. So we first have to understand, well, why do you have broom sage? Is it because of a low pH or is it potentially a different factor? Is it because of low potassium base saturation? We got low soil mineralization. So we're not actually replacing. And that's even a bigger problem now because it's not the broom sage that's the problem. It's the lack of the ability to grow grass because that grass removes so much potassium. You see what I mean?
Well, even
Right.
at like when once you get farther and farther down pH level wise, it becomes more and more difficult to establish a root zone. And even at like a 5.0, most of the time, close to impossible to even establish that root zone as you get below 5.0.
Mhm.
And so it goes right into your what you're saying
Absolutely.
on being able to establish the root zone, overtake other weeds,
Right.
especially sage grass.
Right. And Sierra's doing, or somebody, I think it's Sierra. Yeah, Sierra's doing a great job answering questions over here. If you're like, hey, they really want to see my soil sample, but I don't have one, get on our website. You can get one on there. We use Midwest Labs, totally impartial, right? We're not telling them what to put on it. It's just going to be what's in the ground, or use someone local. My biggest recommendation would be is to get us a Haney test. Is the most common term for it, but it's a test that's going to show you micronutrient levels, base saturation level, right? We want to see CEC. We want to see calcium base saturation because that is how we most effectively address problems because we very regularly, I in particular in the areas that I talk to farmers in, very regularly see pHs that are just fine, right? They're in the high sixes, heck, maybe they're in the low sevens. And the issue with the soil isn't that the pH is the problem, it's that we have too much magnesium and not enough calcium. And so that's why seeing that as the effective tool for determining liming rates, even if you're not using ProCal or Advanced Cal and you're like, I'm still going to use dry lime, still get that, still reach out, still let me help or Johnny help or somebody else or the dozens of people here help you go, hey, this is the rate you should be using of that source to get what you need, to get what you're looking for, right? Because I can't tell you how many times I've talked to guys that are like, well, you know, my ground's never needed lime, but I'm dealing with all this stuff and it's all elements of low calcium based saturation, soil compaction, bad water infiltration, these kinds of things. And it's like, okay, there's something else going on here. Let's look under the hood. And then you find out, well, yeah, the pH was it's a great tool, but it's a tool that we used when we didn't have spectrometry to tell us exactly what the composition was and the percentage of that availability of calcium, magnesium, potassium, and hydrogen, right? And then we went from pH to having buffer pH, and that gave us a little better idea, but it still doesn't always tell us exactly what we need to know. So yeah, if you don't have one, you want to get one, you want to work with us, reach out. We'll help you get a soil test. We'll help you, understand how to take it, and then help you understand how to read it, and then do an analysis on it, and make it even easier to understand it, and an even more effective tool for you as a farmer. Let's jump through some of these questions. Sierra's been doing great answering some, but I see there's quite a few here. So how do I get rid of broom sage? We talked about that a little bit. Get a soil test. Let us talk through that with you. It's more than likely one of those things that we discussed, right? I've been told that calcium will burn alfalfa. It's fantastic. What causes tissue burn?
High salt content.
Or
Um, lack of water, stressed out plant. There's
what?
quite a few
Okay,
different.
sorry.
Yeah, you're
There
asking
is-
a broad term.
Right. Okay. So
like 50 different things.
more often than not, it's not calcium or
Mhm.
even potassium that will burn tissue. Right. These are metals. Why I say these are metals. Oh man, I got to tell my favorite joke here in a second.
Okay.
All right. It's the worst dad joke ever.
All right.
It's not the calcium itself that's burning. It's not the potassium foliar fed that's burning alfalfa or beans or whatever. It's the form that you're using it in. And a lot of times what you're going to see is when calcium is burning alfalfa, it's because you're using a calcium sulfate or a type of calcium that has a molecule with it that can volatilize, and that or a high salt load. Those two things are most common, as Johnny said, two reasons why calcium will burn. Pro cal and advanced cal, no burn risk.
Yeah, it's like 0.22% salt, something like
Oh, I
that.
thought you were going to say 0.22% burn risk. I was like, when did we get
No,
that? I've never seen it burn.
no.
Um,
Whereas like high salt based fertilizers or even dry fertilizers are 20, 25% salt content
Mm.
that you're attaching it to. So
you know what the filler in dry fertilizer is made out of?
wood chips.
Yeah, sawdust. But yeah,
Yeah, sawdust.
yeah,
That's crazy, huh?
pretty cool. Which, funny
Which
enough,
absorbs nitrogen.
it,
It doesn't make a lot of
and
sense.
it decreases soil pH.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, that had nothing to do with this. This is a normal day in the life over here. Um, did you know that calcium is a metal? It's an alkaline earth metal.
Yeah.
Did you know your bones are made out of calcium?
Yeah.
That's metal. That's my dad joke. There you go.
You got
You
it.
take that one, put it in your back pocket. All right. So next question we had here from Jeremy: how long typically do you see advanced cal stay in the soil, and is there shelf life on advanced cal in the tote? We put a shelf life on the label. It's like, hey, if anything happens to it within 4 years, we'll replace it. I've got a drum that has like a little science experiment. It's been sitting there for going on 8 years, and it looks the same as it did when I put it at the back of the barn. So um, it really is quite stable. Its freeze point is very low, so storing it, holding on to it from season to season is not difficult. As far as longevity in the soil, the longevity in the soil is the answer here is the exact same as it would be if you were using dry lime, right? The longevity of it is very similar to dry lime in the sense that it's going to last multiple growing seasons. The length of that, whether it be 3 years, 4 years, or whatever, is going to be dependent on soil cation exchange capacity, removal from the soil. And I'm not talking about direct calcium removal, but removal of other cations from the soil and how quickly they're being replaced by another cation, right? And not, in other words, if I'm going to remove one molecule of potassium, is another molecule of potassium taking that, or is hydrogen taking it? Am I putting nitrogen into a system that then gets removed from a cation receptor site and replaced by hydrogen, right? These factors affect it over time. The lower your CEC, the faster you're going to see that shift, right? So lower CEC soils take less upfront to see the shift, positive, shift of raising pH, raising calcium-based saturation. Unfortunately, the downside is they also are quicker to need a reapplication. Usually, in a real low CEC soil, a couple years, 2-3 years. Whereas in your tens and teens, um, you know, you're looking at on average about 4 years. We've got studies out of Minnesota. Is that where that 6 year study was?
I believe
That
so.
it
Yeah,
held for
Minnesota.
6 years there, but that was a higher CEC soil. So it's very relative, right? There's
And
not it's going to last this long in every type of ground and every growing situation, right? If you're growing wheat that goes into to beans, that goes into wheat, that goes into corn, that you're heavy cycling, you're putting a ton of fertilizer on, you're removing a whole bunch, right? You'll see that, and then in conjunction with CEC, you'll see a shift versus hay and pasture where we don't see that shift quite as quickly. Oh, Larry, I love that question. Do you have a chart by soil types and pH that corresponds to how much calcium you need to put on the soil per acre and the dollar per acre? Why do I love that question? Because I made that chart.
Yeah.
It's not soil type, but it's CEC is what we're using there. So once again, it does kind of rely on you having a soil test that shows you what your CEC is. And Sierra over here, our master co-pilot, who's actually flying the plane, and we're just sitting here, being passengers on it.
She's doing all the
She's doing all the heavy lifting over here. She's gonna drop a link to that chart. And then we also have a calculator on our website where you can put in the your soil data, right? Your pH, buffer pH, or more importantly, your CEC and base saturation, and it'll tell you how much you need on the home page. And there'll be a application rate calculator, and you'll see it. It's blue and green. It says calculator, and and you can put your data in there and get a great idea of how much you need. Very very accurate idea how much you need. And the best part about it is our rates, our use rates, are fed by the real world. Because when we say, hey, we offer before and after soil testing to anybody using this product, part of that reason is because every single one of those then helps feed the knowledge base of how much did it shift in this soil at this rate at this time of year with these weather this weather type and trend, or rain amount or lack thereof, and is constantly feeding, just like a lot of the stuff that we do is constantly feeding a system and a knowledge base that helps us improve, right? And so, with that being said, for those of you that want to see a little bit more about calcium, and we're going to send out an email, um, right? And that'll have some great tools on it. It'll have the standard hay program, normal rates, pricing, all of that. We'll send all that out. To anybody that was part of this today, and to anybody else that wants it that's watching this in the future, just reach out and say, hey, what should we call it? The Hay program. The Hay program. Send me the Hay program email. It'll have quite a bit of data attached to it, but that data is going to be use rates of products, pricing, and also justifications of like why we use it, when we use it, how it, the ROI, the financial justification of it, and then also the proof in the pudding, right? The anti snake oil is what I love to call it. And
You know where
one
that
of those
terminology came from?
snake
Proof in the
oil.
pudding.
Oh yeah, I was like, actually, I knew where snake oil came from, but I didn't know proof in the pudding was that.
I don't know. That's what
Oh,
I got you.
don't do the layman thing to me, you turd. All right, I'm gonna show you guys something real quick, and then we're finish answering a couple questions, and we'll move on to some of the products. But what I want to show you is just some examples of the proof on the ProCal and the Advanced Cal. So if you're like, well, how do I know this will work? For one, very when I say proud, I mean this in a positive way. We're proud of what we do in the sense that we take pride in our work, in our name, and who we are. And that's part of the reason that we want to track things. We want to do follow ups. We want to keep up with people. If you're not happy with something that you got from us, the worst thing you could do is not to say so, is not call somebody here and say, like, hey, this didn't really work. We want to know. I want to honestly, I love the success stories, but Johnny can attest this. One of the things that I say regularly is compliments are fantastic and they make you feel good, but you can't do anything with them. Whereas negative feedback always gives me a way to improve, right? So if you say, hey, this didn't work as well as I thought it would, or this didn't work at all for me, whether it's pro cal and advanced cal, whether it's fertilizer, whether it's a method, whether it's timing, whatever it might be, that's the most important feedback that we can get to not only make things right with you, but then to make things right in our system and our products and our approach, so that that feedback then allows us to keep that from happening with other people in the future. And because that data that we talked about that builds the system, builds the output, isn't just built on the positives of look how great it worked, which is what I'm about to show you, but also is built on the why didn't it work, right? Why didn't it work here? What caused the issue? And that's why I love I love the negatives. You know, it's never a problem. So this is 14 different replicated trials. The states we're looking at here, this pro cal and advanced cal usage are Alabama, Florida, Kentucky, Minnesota, North Dakota, Ohio, Tennessee, and Texas. I just took some samplings of soil tests. Man, those smell good. And yeah, and you see kind of a spattering here of the effects that they had. So this is a ProCal in Tennessee, 4.8 pH starting 6.6 after, went from a 44.4 base saturation in this to an 88.9. Large shift here, lower CEC soil. And so we saw, you see a big shift quickly, right? You get over here to Alabama, lighter soils as well. See almost a point change here. The use rate there was 5 gallons per acre of calcium. We went from a 57.7 to an 81.1. The goal is to get to about a 75%. So this one actually overshot just a little bit, which funny enough, if you look at that chart that Sierra's going to send out, what you would see in there is that this recommended rate would have been closer to a 4 gallon rate to get to that 75, right? And that chart that she's going to share, that's what the end goal is of that chart is get you to a 75% calcium base saturation. Now you go, well, why is the pH, calcium's too high? Why is the pH still at a 6.4? Because calcium's not the only cation in the system, right? So now if our pH is still low, it's because we're lacking something else, potassium or magnesium usually being one of those next factors we want to look at. Potassium being the biggest because that has a lot of impact on growth. Here's one in Minnesota, 3 gallon rate, lighter, sandier soils, 5.5, changed a point and a half, 22.3 points of improvement, went from a 60.6 up to an 82.9. This wasn't even a large rate. We see this massive shift here, but it was a lighter soil. Kentucky, right here, we go from 5.6 to a 6.5, points of pH change and 20 base saturation points using ProCal there. Here we see Florida, 4.9 to a 5.7, 25 to a 44. This one's going to need another run. Not because somebody here didn't do their job right, but because when your soil's starting out real low like this, it's more effective and cost effective to create a 2-year system where, hey, let's get this up 20 points, then let's work on getting up another 20 or 30 the following year rather than try and do it all at once. Same goes here, right? Starting real low. Let's make a good shift in the right direction year one. See, a 4.8 turn into a 5.5, a lot more manageable, but without creating inefficiencies in the system, right? Here, we go from 5.5 to a 6.2, 7/10 of a pH point change, only 12 points of base saturation change, but it's because we were shooting for that 70-75 mark. Um, and This one is funny because a lot of people ask, can you do too much? Yes, you can, right? So this soil, but does it negatively impact things? So this soil was already starting out pretty close to optimal. I included this because I wanted to show in Kentucky here, a 5.9 going to a 6.5, part of this shift, and if you're curious to see more about this study and why the pH shifted so much, was because a lot of potassium increased as well. So we see a 9 point change and a little bit overdoing it, and soil that didn't need a ton of it in the first place, but already seeing the positive effects there. Also, more so on the pH shift, where it's like, why is it shifting by 7/10 here and only 9 points? And it's shifting by 7/10 here and 12 points. How's that work? Well, because it's not just calcium in the system that we're looking at, right? So that's part of the reason that soil test is important to go, okay, what's the next thing that we need to trigger? Is it potassium, mineralization or application or both to get what we need? Ohio, well, Jay's neck of the woods, 6.1 to a 6.4, so not a huge pH shift change, but a really, really beneficial base saturation change. Now we go look at this 6.4 and go, okay, this is very manageable from a calcium base saturation standpoint. We're where we want to be, but this 6.4 now tells us, hey, next thing we need to look at is make sure our potassium base saturation and availability is correct and that our magnesium's right. Mostly because magnesium is a key part of photosynthesis. The tools that we use, the most common tools in the Hay program. Johnny, why don't you take it away, brother?
Well,
What's a normal tool bag for you on a Hay program? Build the foundation,
yeah,
advanced cal and
foundation
pro cal.
first. Once that's where it needs to be, Nitromax, of course, is my main driver for yield. Um,
And
Yield,
quality.
carbon, quality, the whole 9 yards. Making sure that I have a good amount of potassium in there, just to maintain it
Right.
while I'm dipping into reserves and to drive the yield forward. And then I'm focusing on
And that potassium is in like tell us about the rates that like let's talk about your ground.
yeah.
Right. If you were gonna this year, what are you gonna use?
Well,
Other than like R&D stuff. Okay.
No
Okay.
R
All right.
no R&D. I've actually um other than like legumes and those on my Bermuda grass, I've never put on P&K
Okay.
because I wanted to see how long could I maintain um, proper phosphorus and potassium levels, and how much would they go up with Nitromax only, and how much would the pH change. So I've never actually put advanced cal on my own ground, and I've never applied P&K. So far, the pH has steadily increased year to year, and the P&K levels have gone up while taking 4 bales of cutting. I mean, 4 bales per acre per cutting off
Right.
that ground, and uh, I'm at I'm averaging around 129 parts per million on potassium right now, and then about 45 to 50 on phosphate, which is high, being that my CEC is around like 6 to 7.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
So obviously that's a fantastic tool, right? 0030 potassium is in a lot of programs. We're
hmm
talking about how much it needs, and we're only putting on, 2, 3, 4 gallons 0030. Why that is part of the system is less so about full blown feed rate of replacing, but more so about quick access, right? So
hmm
when you cut your hay or when your hay first starts growing out of dormancy, having fast access to potassium increases growth rate on a grass. And so when that's in the system, whether it's in with what you're doing with ProCal, or even if you're doing stuff like Jay, where you're running a high potassium blend, um, especially if you're making an early spring or right after cutting to push that next cutting. A lot of times, what I tell people is like, hey, run the most if you're going to pick a time to say like, hey, let's budget this down. What would you do, right? I want potassium in there both times, but I would run the Nitromax only approach out the gate and then move over to a Nitromax with 0030 so I can get that regrowth started faster, get that plant coming back quicker so that that
Oh,
next cutting
absolutely.
is just as good, if not better, compared to my spring one that had tons of moisture and soils that have had a few months now to mineralize and release more potassium availability. And so it's that quick response factor,
hmm
right? Um, and then um, that a lot of those tools are all combined into that Nitromax. So we talked about carbon as a tool, right? That's carbon core as a standalone product, or humic acid, and that's a humic and fulvic, right? And then bioact, another part of that Nitromax, right? That's a micronutrient pack that's in there, and a prebiotic, right? So
hmm
what is a prebiotic?
It is a
Is it live bugs
no, it's stimulating that reproduction in the soil and
of biology,
biology.
right?
And so, yeah, that's another thing. So it's not just Nitromax that I'm using on my own farm. Now, for a lot of my customers at 0030, because they're not doing trials like me,
Right.
um, they are using that 0030 to access available potassium immediately. But on my own farm, I'm putting on humic in addition to what's in Nitromax, adding in yield maker for a micronutrient pack, um, which those minimal inputs goes a long ways, which is what I love about them and what my customers love. Their carbon core, about a gallon to the acre if you really wanted to drive that forward. And then the yield maker is about a quart. And so last year, my program consisted of humic, yield maker, and Nitromax.
As your main go-to
Yeah,
tools, right? And then air rate, we talked a little bit about. That's a soil surfactant we use to, with tighter soils, hard soils, we're having either, clay dominant, so we're having a hard time with root infiltration or even nutrient infiltration of, you know, being able to get things into the soil, open that soil up. That's a fantastic tool in the bag for hard ground, or if you're like me, if I use it just because I see positive benefit out of it, even on soils that aren't extremely hard, where I live. And so that's a great tool and a part of the program as well. The full list of blends of nutrient types is quite extensive. We have a ton of tools in the bag. These few that we're talking about are kind of the refined down like go-tos that have been either formulated as blends to take, multiple things and put it into one blend so that you're not having to be your own chemist on the farm. Um, but then also, case specific or push specific of like, hey, I've got a low CEC soil, right? We should add in some extra carbon into this program. Or I'm trying to build up OM, I'm trying to build up CEC. Regardless of whether I feel like I started out low or not. Okay, let's use prebiotics, right? Things that encourage, these aren't live bugs, right? And the reason we do that is because it's much more effective both for nature and for your wallet to encourage reproduction of what you already have than to try to, which we've done, right? Johnny's done, tried to introduce live microbes into the environment, which can be very difficult.
they die so fast.
They die so fast.
They're so finicky.
Sounded like you had some PTSD there.
Yeah, a little
And so I want to take the remaining time that we have, and the reason I've started checking my phone is just wanted to see if Dad was out. That sounds like he's still in.
bit. No problem.
I want to take the remaining time to answer any questions that you guys have. I know it was real quick on the tool base, but really we kind of everything we talked about are the tools, right? We just weren't putting the names on them, right? As much, some with the Nitromax earlier, but those are the tools. They're designed to be the tools because everything that we're talking about from the micronutrient side, from the TDN, TNV, protein content, cost of gain, milk production, protein content in the milk, all of these things are dominoes, right? And it's like, okay, are we going to affect it at the beginning, or are we going to wait and try to address it and fix inefficiencies in our program with mineral tubs and lick tubs, or with, you know, additives to the livestock's, grain or food source to address microbiome in the gut of the animal and the rumen to improve that because the food source isn't right? Or are we going to go back to the beginning and fix it at the beginning to positively impact the soil, which positively impacts the crop, which positively impacts the livestock consuming the crop, its offspring that's consuming its milk, or the person downline that's consuming it? That's the entire idea, the entire approach, the entire tool set, and what agritech brings to the table, so to speak, is let's feed the system from the start. We get the most out of it that way, not just on production, not just on quality of the grass that you're growing, but on every domino thereafter, right? So with that being said, we'll take a few questions before we wrap it up for the day. Thank you guys for sticking with us. I know this was a long one, but hopefully helpful. Can these products be applied with a drone? We have quite a few products that we run through drones. If you're using drones, definitely communicate that when you're getting stuff so that make sure we give you the right mix and the spraying instructions. And also that if you're using certain products, especially certain potassium products like the 0030, that you're doing things that you'll get the most effectiveness out of it, not because it changes how well it works for the grass, but because 0030 by itself is highly alkaline. Most drones are made out of aluminum and have ionized coatings on them, which then you can very quickly start to eat at. And we don't
Well,
want
and
to do
also
that.
getting the nozzles right for like the calcium to get it past grasses.
Right. That's
That's
another big
key.
one. If you're using ProCal and VanScal with a drone, Definitely talk to somebody here about that just to make sure that we're going to see the response out of the soil in the time that you're wanting to with the method that you're using. That's why we put together not just a program, right, that you're running, but also the mix and application instructions to go along with it. Let's see, did I miss any questions? You guys have been pretty on top of it. Is there anything you feel like we missed or should go over before we let these folks go eat their supper?
I think we covered a lot.
We did cover quite a
One
bit.
thing that I'll kind of touch on one last tool in the tool belt that I kind of left off of what I use myself is making sure that you get the proper sulfur levels out there.
Oh, yes.
Because that's a huge one that we leave behind. I
Big
mean,
one.
shoot, I even left it out myself, but making sure those are in there for protein content and driving that protein is essential. Um,
Mhm.
Making sure that you have those proper sulfur levels, especially nowadays, without getting it in the environment.
Right.
Adding that yourself, a little goes a long ways, and it's um, one of the highest returns that I've seen on getting that protein content up and really driving it forward
And production.
and
Right.
production.
And production.
Hmm.
Um, all right. Any last questions? Now's a great time to shout them out. We'll send out that email with a packet of information. I normally so last week when we were doing the corn and bean one, I screen shared a bunch. I went through a bunch of stuff live. Today I decided we should just have a conversation. Um, But the cool thing is, we've got a lot of material, a lot of helpful material, educational material, both just broad spectrum on what different things do, not just products. I'm talking about nutrients, what nutrients do, why plants need them, what they're using it for, why we, implement it into a system and how much based on that system, and then the impact that can have, right, based on real world data, not just agri-text, but broad spectrum. You saw earlier talking about Uruguay. We're trying to take all the data we can to make really helpful information packets for people, approaches for farms, etc. So if you're watching this at any point, whether it's live right now or in the future, because I know this is being recorded, definitely reach out and get in contact with us. We want to work with you. We want to help. We want to bring solutions to your farm that make every aspect of it better, from the soil to the plant to the production to the animal that's consuming it, or the human that's consuming it, or the market you're taking it to, right? Get a lot of hay guys that are growing hay to sell it. That's part of the great thing about our partnership with Midwest, is having the ability to facilitate not just tissue samples but hay analysis, so that when you take it to market and you're going, hey, I'm using agritech products and I've got really good quality hay, now I can market it properly and to the right crowd, which is part of the reason I joked about, well, we only grow horse hay quality, and the reason I joke about that is because our system wasn't designed for horses, right? It was designed to be most effective and most efficient across the board, and one of those being on the quality factor as well. Ronald asked a question: can you use normal spraying equipment? Absolutely. Uh, Most everything in here is meant to go through your regular sprayer. No special stuff. No concern of it wearing stuff out. This is it would not be a helpful thing to bring tools to the farm that are great for the soil but horrible for the equipment we're using to put it on. That's why it's like, hey, when we put together your program, we want to know what equipment you're using so that we can make sure not only it gets put down correctly, but that we're using it most efficiently, but also that the product that we're using aren't tearing stuff up, which very rarely is that a concern. The reason I brought up the drone situation is simply because that is a very specific scenario of highly alkaline potassium and aluminum, and the reaction those two have, and and that's only if and that's not a hard thing to fix either. It's just, hey, funny enough, we find ourselves back at humic. Put a little humic in there, it brings the pH down to a neutral state, and you can run it through a drone just fine. But most of your spray equipment's just fine. Steven said, "Thank you so much. It's going to be a great year." Heck yes, amen. It is going to be a good year. Um, I'm excited for another growing season. March is easily my favorite month of the year because everything starts turning green. People start getting excited about another growing season, new opportunities to try new things, to implement ideas that you have for your farm, and to see the fruits of your labor returned. I appreciate everybody that was here today, including Johnny, who took some time away from his toddler and his wife and his newborn little boy to be here with us to share. Johnny's extremely passionate about dirt and about what we do here, and and thank you for being here.
No, thanks for having me.
I really really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun to have a conversation, and hear the feedback and the ideas that you have, and the approach that you have.
He's talking to a wall.
I do that a lot.
Yeah.
But most importantly, appreciate everybody out there that is a part of us in some way, even if you're just a silent observer. It's nice to have somebody to talk to, right? And ideas to share. And if you've got ideas, and if you've got ways we can be better, as I said earlier, share those. If you want to work with us and see what we can bring to the table, let's do it.